Hello friends, I welcome you to yet another session of verbal ability. We'll be discussing on one of the most important topics of English grammar, which is not important only from the perspective of your competitive examinations. It is in general also important to understand the overall structure of language, since apart from grammar, you'll be facing many other types of questions in your competitive examinations, like verbal logic, reading comprehension, vocabulary, reasoning, and various other types. So, tenses play a very important role in the overall structure or the construction of the language. So, today we'll try and take you through the very basics of tenses. We would also try and see what kind of problems appear on the basis of tenses and how should you go about solving the questions. It is equally important to take this today's session from the perspective of your conversational English, because we are living in a very competitive era wherein all the companies or different competitive examinations, when you apply for, they have a group discussion and an interview round also. So our today's session will be important from the point of view of your understanding of colloquial English and to improve your communication skills. So let us start the discussion. So we'll be discussing on present tense in detail. We would be talking about past tense next, and then you know what follows, the future tense. So what are tenses first of all? A tense is a characteristic of verb that indicates the time of the action or the state of being that a verb expresses. Tense is, as you must know, a trait of a verb that is used to indicate a time. For an example, if you say he goes to school. On the other hand, if I say he will go to school, that indicates that the action is not happening in the present. He goes to school indicates that the action is taking place in the present time. On the other hand, when you say he will go to school, that indicates that the action is not taking place right now, nor has it happened earlier. It is yet to take place. It is yet to happen. It will happen in the future. He will be dancing in the show. That again indicates that the action is supposed to take place in the future. He went to the market. That indicates that the action has taken place. It implies that we are using past tense here. So a tense, as we learned, is a characteristic of verb that indicates the time of the action or state of being that a verb expresses. A set of such forms for a given time of reference. The present tense of be tenses in English are usually listed as present, past, future, present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect, in accordance with the Latin models and English tenses, other than the simple present and simple past as expressed by the auxiliary verb. So in the today's session, we would also try and learn to be forms of verbs. We would also see that how are they used in different tenses. We would also talk about the relevance of the section for GMAT and for various other competitive examinations. Generally, a paper like GMAT, you can expect around 2 to 3 questions appearing on this section. As far as the other papers like CAT and various other management entrance examinations in India go, this section is equally important. On an average, you can find some 10 to 20% questions of English grammar belonging to this section of tenses. Now we'll try and take you through a few sample questions wherein we've chosen a few questions from some of the toughest competitive examinations. You'll have a few choices. We advise you to take the exercise very sincerely and try and attempt the questions. In this way, you will be able to judge your own performance as well. So here we have the first question coming up. From 1982 to 1990, sales of good quality paper increased between 5 and 10% annually. Now we'll present you with the choices. You should try and take some time and attempt the questions on your own. Could you get the answer? What should it be? Let us discuss. From 1982, now as you can see in the sentence, the entire sentence is underlined, so we'll have to read the entire sentence to understand the entire idea. Let us read the sentence. From 1982 to 1990, sales of good quality paper increased between 5 and 10% annually. Now, as you can see, we are talking about a past duration which was 1982 to 1990, and the verb of the sentence is using simple past tense here, which is increased. So choice A, which is the reiteration of the underlying statement, appears to be alright. Let us look at the other choices. As we know, in such questions, there is nothing like an absolutely right answer choice or an absolutely wrong answer choice. It's always about the best answer choice. You should identify which is the best alternative among the choices available. So we'll come to choice B now. 5 to 10% is the annual increase in sales of good quality paper in the years 1982 to 1990. First of all, as you can notice, this has reversed the entire sentence, which is not needed. You as a test taker just have to correct the sentence at places where you find something wrong. The given statement, as we saw, did not have anything wrong, so you don't need to make the sentence such ambiguous and such circuitous that it becomes difficult to flow. Another problem with choice B is it is using present tense, which is not needed. C part now. Sales of good quality paper have increased annually 5 and 10% in the years 1982 to 1990. Have increased, it indicates that we are using present perfect form. But since the duration belongs to a past time, so we should prefer using past simple or past indefinite. D part now. Annually, an increase of 5 to 10% has occurred between 1982 and 1990 in the sales of good quality paper. Has occurred again makes it too indirect, and as we discussed, the use of present perfect here is not needed. E part now. Occurring from 1982 to 1990 was an annual increase of 5 and 10% in the sales of good quality paper. Same problem here, too indirect and introducing gerunds unnecessarily. So the right answer should be choice A here. Let us look at the explanation. A is the best choice since it conveys the relevant information clearly and directly. The focus of interest is the sales, and that is the subject. Since the period of time covered began and ended in the past, the verb should be in the simple past tense. B, C, D, E are all distorting the focus and disrupting the sensible order of ideas, which is not needed here. Apart from that, B, C, D use incorrect verb tenses to refer to simple past. Have increased, is, has occurred, etc. In C, the expression 5 and 10% makes no sense without the word between. E is very clumsy and confused. So the final answer choice, as we saw for the question, was choice A. Let us continue with one more practice question now. Let us look at the sentence. Declining American competitiveness in world economic markets have renewed interest in employment testing as a way of putting the right workers in the right jobs. Let us look at the choices here. Now, as we know, the subject is declining American competitiveness. It is not markets. So, have is wrong here. It should be singular since the subject is declining American competitiveness. Let us see which all choices can be eliminated here. Choice A can be ruled out since it says have renewed. Same is the problem with B also, have renewed. Have renewing doesn't go. E also has a problem, have renewed. Now we are left with choice C and D. C, as it says has renewing, doesn't make any sense. Let us look at D part now. Declining American competitiveness in the world economic markets has renewed interest in employment testing as a way of putting the right workers in the right jobs. So D definitely is the best answer choice. Let us look at the explanation. A has the error of subject verb agreement, as we noticed, that was using have here. In B, the problem was have renewing, which is not making any sense. Same was the problem with C. E, on the other hand, has an incorrect subject as well, as incorrect subject verb agreement. So D was definitely the best answer choice. Let us look at one more question now. Because oil prices are going down, demand for alternative energy products is lessening. Let us look at the choices. So try and attempt the question, see if you can get the answer. Let us start discussing. Because oil prices are going down, we are using present continuous here. Demand for alternative energy products is lessening. So again here also we are using present continuous, and both of them are in synchronization, both of them are correct in terms of parallelism also. Oil prices are going down, since oil prices is plural, so it's correct to say are going down. Demand for alternative energy products. The subject here is demand, it's not energy products, so demand is lessening. That is also correct. So choice A appears to be all right. Let us look at the other choices and let us try and identify which is the best answer choice. Starting with B. Because of oil prices going down, alternative energy products are lower in demand. First part is all right here. Second has a problem, are lower in demand. C part. In view of the decline of oil prices, demand for alternative energy products is also declining. This could have been a good choice, but we don't need to replace lessening with declining. D part. Being that oil prices are lessening in amount doesn't make much sense. Considering the fact that oil prices are going down, demand for alternative energy products is lessening. The first part should not be changed from because to considering the fact, which is not needed. So choice A, which is the statement as it is the best answer choice. Let us look at the explanation. The correct answer choice as we discussed here is A. The original version A is the best choice. B is nonsensical. Lower appears to be refer to energy products rather than to demand. In C, the phrase in view of is inappropriate to express the meaning of the original version. Also, the idiom decline in is preferred over decline of. D part includes the awkward phrase being that, which was not needed. E part, the phrase considering the fact, that is too wordy and it distorts the meaning of the original version, unfairly suggesting that the lessening demand for alternative energy products is surprising. So we know what is the answer. The final answer choice here for the question was choice A. So how many answers did you have correct? If you had 2 or plus correct answers on 3, I think that's a very decent score. But nothing to worry if you had your score less than 2. We'll have the discussion right from the very basics. So let us start discussing what are tenses. A verb is a word that is used in a sentence to express an action. An error that frequently appears in the sentence correction section when a verb is used in the wrong tense related to the rest of the sentence. The most common tense errors involve using the present, past and future tenses at inappropriate times. As we've already discussed that the role of tense is basically to indicate time. So, as we know, present tense should refer to the current time. Past tense, on the other hand, should refer to an action which took place in the past. And future tense would indicate that an action is yet to happen. It is going to happen in the future. So, the way they try and give you grammatical errors is they would use a parallel misconstruction in the sentence using some wrong tense at a place something else was needed. Let us start discussing on the tenses broadly. First of all, starting with present tense. An example like I am a happy person. We are using present tense here since it implies that the person is happy right now at the current stage. We don't know what is the link with past, whether he was happy in the past or not, and whether he would continue to remain happy in the future or not. But it just implies the present tense that the person is happy right now. I'm satisfied with the job right now. Now, in this sentence, you have a clue indicator also given, which is right now, which clearly implies that the person is satisfied with the job right now at the present stage. Even if right now was not given, you can definitely get it since it says I am satisfied. I am satisfied with my job is actually the passive form, as we've learned. So a passive construction takes place when the subject of the action actually becomes the recipient. I work on my project assignment for 2 hours every day. This implies a habitual action which the author has. Here also we should use present tense since it has been happening on a regular interval. Verbs in the present tense indicate an action that is taking place right now. A present tense verb also denotes unchanging states of being or action or repeated actions. Let us see which all other places can we use present tense. We can use present tense if the action is taking place right now, first of all. Secondly, we can use present tense in order to indicate to a habitual action. I brush my teeth daily. Here it implies that the person does it on a regular basis. So we are using present tense again. It is also used in order to indicate a few universal truths or a few things which don't change. The sun rises in the east. We are using a present tense here again, since it is an action which is a universal truth which is not going to change ever. Apart from that, in order to indicate the factual statements, certain pieces of information also, we use present tense. Now we'll be discussing a little bit about the past tense. I used to work in a departmental store. As it indicates, I used to is simple past. That means the person had this habit. He was a regular worker, but not presently in the past. So that is past tense. How would you convert this sentence into present form? You would say, I work in a departmental store. That would make it a present tense. The past tense verbs indicate an action that took place in the past. That is, at some point prior to the present moment. The action has been finished right now. The person is not working. That is a point prior to the current time. Now we'll come to the third part, which is future tense. I will take GMAT in the coming month. This implies that the person has planned that he's taking the test in the coming month. Though the planning has been done, but the test has not been taken. So this is an action which is about to be done, which is yet to be done in the coming month. So we are using a future tense here. The verbs in the future tense indicate an action that takes place in the future. That is at some point after the present moment. So just to revise what we learned so far, present tense is used for an action which is being done right now, which is currently happening, or it indicates a habitual action, or it may refer to a universal truth or a factual statement also. Past tense, on the other hand, is used for an action which took place at some point prior to the present time. That means past time. Future tense, on the other hand, would be used when the action is yet to be done. That is, the action will be taking place in the future. So, as we learned, a verb in the present tense shows action that happens right now. Let us understand that with the help of some examples. Storm clouds linger above the mountains. So here, the action is being done right now. It is happening right now. If somebody asks you a question, when do storm clouds linger above the mountains? So the answer would be definitely at the present moment. So we are using a present tense here. As we must know that every tense, present, past and future, is further categorized into 4 parts. Present simple, also known as present indefinite. Second type, present continuous. Third type, present perfect. And the fourth type is present perfect continuous. So here we are primarily discussing about the first type, which is simple present. If I have to convert the same sentence into the other forms, I would say storm clouds are lingering above the mountains. That makes it present continuous. Present perfect now. Storm clouds have lingered above the mountains. That makes it present perfect. Present perfect continuous now. Storm clouds have been lingering above the mountains for the last half an hour. So that makes it present perfect continuous. So in all, whatever type of present tense it is, it shows an action that happens right now at the present moment. The next sentence coming up. A river of rain sweeps the sky. That is again an action which is happening now. Now we'll be talking about the past tense. A verb in the past tense shows action that has already happened. The past tense of a verb usually ends in ed, or you can say if not ed, they have the past form of verb. For an example, if you say he goes to the school, so this is the present tense form. If the same sentence has to be converted into its past form, you would say he went to his school. So in this sentence, we are not using ed here, but we are converting the verb form into its past form. Come, on the other hand, becomes came. Stand becomes stood, etc. Yesterday, a gentle fog settled down in the village. Now, since we are using a verb that is ending with ed, settled, ed, we can get a clue that we are using a past tense here. Or the other way of understanding it can be, if not necessarily ed, any verb which is using past form of the verb is the past tense. It touched us all with its powdery mist. So touched is again indicating that we are using past tense. So when should you use past tense? When the action has already happened. As under present tense, we talked about 4 categories, which were simple present, present continuous, present perfect and present continuous. In the similar fashion, you can divide past tense into 4 categories, which would be simple past, past continuous, past perfect and past perfect continuous. Here in both the sentences, we are basically discussing on the usage of simple past. Let us convert some sentence into all the 4 forms. If I say he went, which tense are we using? We are using simple past. Let us convert that into the rest of the forms. Past continuous now, he was going. Past perfect, he had gone. That indicates the completion of the job. Past perfect continuous now, he had been going there for the last 2 hours. So this is how you use past tense. But again, as said earlier, whatever past tense it is, it would always show an action that has already happened. Now we come to the third type, which is future tense. A verb in the future tense shows action that will happen. It has not happened right now, but it is going to be happened in the future. It is usually formed with helping verb will or shall. Let us look at the examples. Tomorrow, the radiant sun will blaze above. Now here it implies that the action is not happening right now, nor has it happened in past. It is going to happen in the future. That means in the near future, in the days to come, in the time to come, we will see this thing happening. Now this particular sentence, as it is giving you a clue, tomorrow, that means the time has also been specified. How we shall welcome its warmth and light. That means again it is going to happen in the future. It is, as we said, formed with helping verb will or shall. So here, these 2 sentences in particular, we are talking about simple future tense. We can look at the other conversions like future continuous, future perfect and future perfect continuous. What if we take a sentence like he will go to the school? That is simple future. Can you try and convert the sentence into future continuous form? Let us see. He will be going to the school. Future perfect on the other hand would make it he will have gone to school. And future perfect continuous would do a change like he will have been going to school for the last 3 years. So this is how you make all the conversions. But as we should remember, a verb in the future tense would always show an action that is going to happen in the future. Now, let us revise whatever we've learned so far. Verb or tense. Tense denotes the time of the action indicated by a verb. The time is not always the same as indicated by the name of the tense. What does that mean? So here primarily we'll be discussing on the 6 types, which are present, past and future. Under present, past and future, we have taken one more category for each one of them, which is present perfect, past perfect and future perfect. There are certain other types also, as we know, so we'll also keep taking them. But from the perspective of your examinations, the perfect tense is equally very important, so we'll have a detailed discussion around that. A present tense. Present tense may express action which is going on at the present time or which occurs always, repeatedly or habitually. As we've been discussing on this thing earlier also, that present tense is used for a few purposes. Firstly, when the action is taking place right now, that means the action is going on at the present time or moment. Secondly, an action which occurs always, repeatedly or habitually. That means an action which happens on a regular basis, an action that is done either as an habitual action or it can be a universal truth also. Let us look at some examples. He sees the train. That means it has been presented as a habit. It is his habit. He's been normally watching it. He's been normally seeing it. He eats cereal for breakfast every day. That's again indicated as a habit. He has been doing it every day. So he eats. We are using simple present tense here in the sentences. So present tense would express an action which is happening at the present moment. Now here in both the sentences we've used simple present tense. Let us try and convert these sentences into the other forms of present. Do you remember which all other forms of present tense did we talk about? One was simple present. What was the second form? Second one, yes, was present continuous. Third form was present perfect, and the fourth form was present perfect continuous. So let us take the sentence, he sees the train, and let us try and convert this sentence into all forms. He sees the train. Which tense it is? It is perfect. But which perfect? It is present simple or present indefinite. Let us convert the sentence into present continuous form now. He is seeing the train becomes present continuous. He has seen the train becomes present perfect. Present perfect continuous, as we know, would always have time reference given to it. So he has been seeing the train for the last 10 minutes makes it present perfect continuous. Now, as you must have noticed, the basic difference between present continuous and the present perfect continuous is the time reference. So when you say he is seeing the train, that means we don't know for how long has he been seeing it. But on the other hand, when you say he has been seeing the train, that indicates that there is some time reference to it. He has been seeing for the last 10 minutes, for the last 5 minutes, or whatever other time is attached to it. Let us talk about the past tense now. Past tense expresses action completed at a definite time in the past. That's the basic difference between present and past tense. Present tense indicates the action is happening right now. Past tense, on the other hand, would imply that the action has been completed, and that too in the past. He wrote the letter yesterday. We are using simple past tense here again. And as you can notice, there is a time indicator also given, yesterday. Even if yesterday was not given, you can definitely take it as an action which is complete. He has done it. She lived to be 90 years old. That's again an action which is complete at a definite time in the past. So in both the sentences, as you noticed, we are using past simple or past indefinite tense here. Let us try and convert the sentences into the respective other forms of past tense. So when you say he wrote the letter, which tense are we using? We are using simple past. Let us convert this into past continuous form. How would you convert that? He was writing the letter. Past perfect would make it he had written the letter. And past perfect continuous would make it like he had been writing the letter for the last half an hour. So this is how you would do all the conversions. So a past tense, whatever type it is, expresses an action completed at a definite time in the past. The future tense now. Future tense expresses action which will take place in the future. The action is yet to be done. It will be taking place in the future. It uses the helping verbs will or shall and the present tense form of the verb. Present tense form, that means we are talking about the first form of the verb that we were using in the present tense. Examples are he will send the letter tomorrow. So will or shall, as we said, is the auxiliary verb here. It is the helping verb. Along with that, we'll be using the first form or the present form of the verb, that is send. If you remove will out of it, if you make it he sends the letter tomorrow, that would make it present tense. The next sentence, I shall wait here until you return. So shall wait implies that we are using future tense here. If you remove shall again, that would make it present tense again. I wait here until you return. So the future tense right now. Traditionally, shall is used for first person and will is for second and third person. Now shall with the first person. Now you know what is first person. First person, as we've learned in the previous sessions, is the speaker, the one who's talking, the one who is speaking. I or we. I is the singular first person. We, on the other hand, is the plural first person. And second and third persons would always use will with them. Now second person is the one who's spoken to. I am talking to you, so you are the second person. Third person, on the other hand, is the one that is spoken about. The one whom you are talking about is the third person. Third person, can you give me some examples? Those can be he, she, it, they, etc. So The traditional grammar would tell you that first person should always use shall, that is I or we would always use shall. Second and third persons on the other hand would be using will. But that is a rule which applies to traditional grammar. Modern grammarians don't agree to that rule, and you would actually find at many places we use I will, and at in certain places you must have seen he shall or they shall. Here all of them are correct. From the perspective of your competitive examinations, you should remember this traditional grammar rule has become redundant and this does not apply anymore. So the sentences that we saw here, he will send the letter, and the other sentence, they are all using simple future form, also known as future indefinite. Let us try and convert this sentence into the other forms of future also. He will send the letter is simple future or future continuous. He will be sending the letter makes it future continuous. The next form, future perfect, he will have sent the letter. Future perfect continuous would make it he will be sending the letter. He will have been sending the letter for the last 1 week. So this is how you do all the conversions. But as we know, future tense, whatever type it is, it expresses action which is going to take place in the future. After having a broad idea of all the tenses, we'll be learning about perfect tenses in detail, since perfect tense is an important part of your competitive examinations grammar sections, and you'll be finding many questions are woven around that. So, present perfect tense expresses action completed at the present time. Perfect means complete or begun in the past and continuing into the present. This tense uses the helping verb like has and have the past participle of the verb form. When you say past participle, we are referring to the third form of the verb. Let us understand what is the third form. For example, go is the present form, went becomes the past form. So past participle form is gone, also known as third form. You can understand it in this way, like go is the first form, went is the second form, and gone becomes the third form or past participle form. Some other examples can be come, that is present form, came becomes the past form. Third form or past participle form here would be come again. So it is the same as first and third form. Stand is the first form, present form. Stood is the past form or second form. Stood is again the third or the past participle form. Swim, swam, and swum. So swum here is the third form or past participle form. So you would notice in perfect tense you would have an auxiliary verb like has or have been given, and has or have would be given to you, and the past participle form of the verb, that means the third form of the verb, is going to be used here. He has written a letter to his uncle, which implies that the action is complete. So as we learned, present perfect tense would be used for expressing an action which is either completed at the present time or it has begun in the past and it is continuing into the present. So he has written a letter to his uncle. That means the action is complete. The Waltons have lived here for 7 years. That means the action which began in past and it still continues to be there. So we are using present perfect. And as you can notice, has written, has is for a singular subject, have on the other hand is for a plural subject. So present perfect tense, just to summarize, is used for the actions if it is complete in the present time, or it has begun in past and still continues to be there in the present time. Now we'll come to the second type, which is past perfect tense. So when should we use past perfect? Past perfect tense expresses action which is completed before certain time in the past. That means this is the before past tense. Past tense, for an example, if I say he went to the market, this is past tense. So when you say he had already left when she went to the market, so past perfect tense is basically the before past tense, or it expresses an action that is completed before certain time in the past. You would understand that with the help of examples. It uses the helping verb had and the past participle of the verb. As we discussed under present perfect tense, we were using the helping verb has or have plus the past participle form. Here we are using the helping verb had plus the past participle form or the third form of the verb. Let us look at the sentence. She had written the letter before I saw her. Now, as you can see, there are two activities taking place in the sentence. One is I saw her. The other one is she had written the letter. I saw her is the past tense. She had written the letter before I saw her. She had written is the past of the past. That means this is the before past tense. So that is why we are using past perfect tense. Past perfect tense, as suggested earlier, it expresses an action which is completed before certain time in the past. Certain time in past here is I saw her. So the action was complete before that. So we are using past perfect tense here. Now we'll come to the third type, which is future perfect tense. Let us learn when is future perfect tense used and what should be the structure of the sentence. Future perfect tense expresses action which will be completed before a certain time in the future. This is before future tense. That means this kind of action will be completed before a specific time of the future. It uses the helping verb will have or shall have and the past participle form. As you've seen so far in the perfect tenses, present perfect was using has or have plus past participle form. Past perfect tense used had plus the past participle form. The future perfect tense here will be using will have or shall have plus the past participle form. Let us look at the example. He will have finished the paper before next Friday. So here it indicates that this action will be complete before a certain time in the future. So before next Friday, the action would be complete. So as we said, past perfect tense is past of the past. Here the future perfect tense is the before future tense. Before next Friday, the action would be completed, which is finishing the paper. Now, after learning some of the prominent types of tenses, we would be talking about a few verb forms which would enhance your understanding of tenses. The verb forms can be divided in two categories broadly, which are regular verb forms and irregular verb forms. The regular verbs form their past tense and past participle by adding ed or d to their present tense form. More than 95% of all English verbs are regular. Regular verbs cause few problems in speaking and writing. Regular verbs are the verbs when you can add ed or d at the end of them and then you convert them into the past and past participle form. Walk. So when you add ed, walked, that becomes the past form. And the same is the past participle form, walked. They cause some problem in speaking. That means when you are pronouncing walk and walked, walked, they sound quite similar. So more than 95% of all English verbs are actually regular verbs. Now the regular verbs and their principal parts. We would try and understand with the help of some examples. To call is a verb. The principal part here is to call. Present tense would make it either call or calls. Present participle as we've been learning always is also known as a gerund. So gerund is formed out of adding ing to it. So calling would be present participle form. Past form, as we know this is a regular verb, so we'll just add ed to it, called. Past participle would make it have called. To dust, that is the prime verb. Present tense would make it dust or dusts. Present participle form, that is gerund form, would make it dusting. Past tense is dusted, and when you add an auxiliary verb like has or have or had, that would make it past participle, dusted. Now we'll come to the second type, which is irregular verbs. Irregular verbs can form their past tense and past participle forms in various ways. These forms cause even native speakers innumerable problems, but you should not worry, there are a few tried and tested rules for that. The most irregular verbs of all is the verb to be. Another irregular verb that is important for its use with other verbs is to have. Let us discuss around those. So when we are taking to be as the principal verb, the present tense becomes be, or you can also say is, am, are. Present participle form is being when you add ing to it. Past tense, it would become was or were. Past participle would become been. That is the past participle or third form, which would always need an auxiliary verb coming before that. The next example, as you can see, which is presented in the table, is to have as the principal or main verb. Present tense, you would need to have or has. Present participle would be formed by adding ing to it. Past tense would have had, and past participle would make it had, which is the third form, and you need an auxiliary verb coming before that. We would also try and learn with the help of a few more principal verbs. Let us look at the examples here. To see becomes see or sees. Present participle seeing. Saw becomes past tense. Past participle becomes the third form, which is seen. To do or does, doing, did and done. To fly or flies, flying becomes the gerund out of it. Remember, the past form is flew, past participle form is flown. Run, which is the main verb here. Present tense forms are run or runs. Present participle, that is ing forms, running. Past tense ran, past participle run again. Now we'll be talking a little bit about conjugation. So what is conjugation? Conjugation of a verb is the correct arrangement of its form through its tenses, persons and numbers. Person means the speaker, the person spoken to, and the person which is being spoken of. The number means singular or plural. Let us understand with the help of some examples. Be. So present form in singular and plural. In two different cases, we'll try and understand how is be used. I am. We are. For second person, you would say you are. Plural also remains you are. Present tense singular, third person, it becomes he, she, it is. Plural form becomes they are. In past form, you would say I was. Plural becomes we were. Second person, it becomes you were. Same applies to the plural second person, which is you were. He was and they were. Future, I shall be. The plural becomes we shall be. You will be. Same remains in the plural. He will be and they will be. Present perfect form. I have been, we have been, you have been. Plural remains the same. He has been and they have been. Past perfect form. I had been, we had been, you had been and you had been remains the same. He had been and they had been. In future perfect, similarly as we discussed earlier, you can make changes. I shall have been, we shall have been, you will have been remains the same in plural. He will have been and they will have been. Here in the session today, we talked about tenses in details. We also discussed about regular and irregular verbs. So we've come to the end of the session. We hope that you developed a good understanding of tenses and verbs today. Hope to see you in the coming class. Thank you.